hello to everyone on the call. I hope you can hear me clearly. Please just confirm.
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, great. So to get us started today, thank you guys, everyone, for joining us on the call today. We're going to be talking about crop spraying drones, and in particular, looking at the opportunities and challenges with how crop spraying drones are now becoming a tool used for agriculture. So what I will do is I'm going to just share my presentation and share my screen. And this is a brief presentation just to give you a guideline, just in terms of some of the work that we've been doing within the space. And then I will hand over to my counterpart from Cote Flying Labs, who will then give you a little bit more detail around how drones are being used specifically for different crops. And you guys can at any point, ask questions maybe towards the end, and we can kind of take it from there. So just to confirm, if everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can
yes, we can see it.
All right, great. So to get us started, as you all know, drones have become almost ubiquitous just in terms of the way they've transformed the way work is done. In particular, our focus today is on crop spraying drones. And crop spraying drones are part and parcel of a broad range of drones used for agriculture purposes and are now being used for a variety of different use cases. So just to give you a bit of an overview, just in terms of where we're coming from, I think Mamadou has really given a background about a little bit about who I am and my background. In particular, over the last year or two, our focus has really been driving towards bringing education, awareness, and training. We found that that's probably the biggest gap that exists and one of the biggest challenges we're finding in the adoption of drones across the board. And going forward, we're looking forward to making sure that platforms like this webinar, bring information, education, and awareness to people around what possible opportunities lie within the crop spraying and different other use case applications. So as Mamadou said, Zimbabwe Flying Labs is part of a larger group, a precision aerial group in particular. And we have a number of different other divisions within the group of companies. Precision aerial at the bottom there being focusing on our operations, commercial operations, precision drone training, a certified drone training school, Zimbabwe Flying Labs, our social humanitarian arm, and also a specific focus on drones in development. Then lastly, we are also the hosts of the Zimbabwe International Drone Conference, where we have a platform that helps us to disseminate information, bring together the industry, and really drive forward conversations that help us to grow the drone industry, not only in Zimbabwe, but across Southern Africa and hopefully across Africa. So Zimbabwe Flying Labs is our key focus area today. And what we're looking at, just as a brief in terms of our journey, when we first got involved with drones, we've been involved in drones since around about 2016. And in that space, we were assembling and building, kind of racing drones at the time. We only really got into the commercial drone industry in about 2018. We then proceeded to get licensed and that kind of thing at a time when we didn't even really have regulations in place in Zimbabwe, but we were forerunners in becoming the people who were shaping the right way of operating drones in the country. Later on 2019, and in particular our journey with crop spraying drones, we began running proof of concepts and consulting for local companies, 1 or 2 local companies who were experimenting with crop spraying drones. And you'll see as we go along, I'll let you know and show you a bit more of what we were doing at that time. In 2020, we also conducted a proof of concept for COVID-19 disinfectant spraying in the inner city markets of Harare. And in particular, the focus there was to retrofit and change a specific type of crop spraying drone model and put the disinfectant spraying for specific market areas or crowded areas at the time when everyone was in lockdown. Last year, we then purchased our first crop spraying drone, which we own now on our own, even though we've been using and helping and consulting using some of our partners and our clients' drones for the last 2-3 years prior to that. In particular, this is back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. This was a demonstration we were doing to the former late Minister of Agriculture in Zimbabwe and his directors. And we were doing a demonstration around how crop spraying drones need to be adopted as agricultural equipment. And I'll speak to that later in terms of the importance of that. But this is one of the things that we were doing around about 2019. This is an article that was written around the project that we undertook in partnership with a local telecoms company to help and retrofit, like I said, different kind of nozzles and spray disinfectant in the city streets. Now, our other work in agriculture, so crop spraying drones are not the only types of drones used for agriculture. We provide, as Zimbabwe Flying Labs, aerial mapping data processing services for precision agriculture as well as a number of different other services, including 3D mapping, boundary mapping, irrigation planning, topographical surveys, stand counts with multispectral sensors, livestock and plant counting. Now, looking at that quickly, just so that we bring context to the conversation we're having today, there are a number of different types of drones for agriculture. So broadly, there are so many different types of drones for different use cases, right, across different industries and sectors. Now, in agriculture in particular, we have mapping and surveillance drones. We have drones with multispectral kind of sensors. So this is more for your high-end tool used to identify crop health, identify any kind of crop issues, crop damage. And that's where we use the multispectral sensor. Then we have our crop sprayer and seeder type of drones. And today we're focusing particularly on that. The platform I'm going to tell you about, the one that we have and that we use is Agris T30, and I'll speak to that just now. But overall, the benefits that we found within the use of crop spraying drones really encompass being able to have efficient resource management. So when you use a crop spraying drone, ultimately you use less water and it reduces the amount of chemical required when you're spraying over a particular kind of crop. And I know Aboubacar will also speak to that and speak specifically to the different types of crops and how they've been able to successfully help farmers and companies that they serve to reduce their overall costs. The other benefits include time saving and quick deployment. For us, the real benefit we've seen for some of the clients and the farmers that we deal with and work with every day is just the sheer amount of time they can save, right? Traditional methods, and particularly knapsacks and your boom sprayers, right? In that kind of space is where the drones are really coming in and are really revolutionizing the way that we do the work. Crop spraying drones can be automated, so you set them on a particular flight path and they fly basically on their own. So we've been able to give back time to our farmers. We've been able to help them get into difficult spaces when they need to deal with pests and disease quickly. And that is critical to ensure food security and to ensure that farmers don't lose their crops. And there are particular situations where we've had that. There's certain areas where maybe it's rained and it's waterlogged and you can't even get in there as a farmer, right? To maybe deal with whatever pests or whatever issues arise. And you need the technology to be able to go overhead to identify the issues and to deal with it accordingly. Then also affordable application of fertilizers and pesticides. So for us, particularly there where we're helping with our farmers, is it's now more cost effective for them to rather hire our services than have to invest in buying the knapsacks, right? Multiple knapsacks, and then hiring casual laborers, then having personal protective equipment as well for each of the people who operate the different knapsacks. So that's really the area where we're saying now it's at a point where it's affordable because the service itself isn't that much more than what they would have paid ordinarily if they had gone for a boom sprayer or brought in guys who use knapsacks. The thinking though is that, oh, because the technology is there and crop spraying drones are expensive to acquire and to be able to be proficient in using them, the service itself is not. Then obviously precision spraying. One of the key areas that we've seen benefit for our farmers and our customers there is just the precision around being able to be precise in spraying over particular rows and doing repetitive missions. What we know from working with and speaking to the different farmers is that you'll find that if you hire, let's say you have a 10-hectare plot, a farm, right? And you've got a particular crop, be it maize, be it soybean, or whatever it is that you're planting, right? Or what you planted in your field. If you need to spray that 10-hectare plot in a day, on average, it takes one person, maybe they can spray 0.8 to 1 hectare a day, right? And that's at their maximum efficiency. So you'd need 10 people to cover that area in one day, right? If we had an emergency where we've got maybe aphids that are coming into your crop and you need to deal with it immediately. Now bring in the crop spraying drones. Now at the level that we're operating now with the platforms like the Agris T30, we're able to spray that 10 hectares in a matter of just a single hour. So in 1 hour, we can do the work of what 10 people would do in a single day, right? And make sure that it's precise versus, different people, spraying different areas where you'll find maybe they spray more in one area or less in another area. Then also an important point is the health and safety of human resources. So a big issue and concern also is when people are spraying, pesticides, fungicides, that kind of thing. If you do it over, farming season, right? Whether you like it or not, at some point, right, the people who you've brought in, the casual laborers who work on your farm, they're most likely going to get sick. And we've seen this, that 9 times out of 10, if you have a farmer who's got a number of different people they're bringing in, someone's going to get sick. Someone's going to either fall ill, and that's going to put pressure and on obviously the farmer to help them to make sure that they get the care that they need. But also, we don't want to put people at risk. Okay. Another benefit is night spraying capabilities. So the ability to spray at the time that you need to spray. There are certain fertilizers, certain pesticides and fungicides, herbicides that don't work best if you're spraying at high noon, is what we would call it. So when it's super hot, it's not necessarily the best time to be spraying sometimes, right? So sometimes you want to be able to make sure that you spray early morning and later in the day when it's cooler, right? So now with the crop spraying drones, we're able to now spray during the night. We don't have to worry about having to do certain things when it's really hot during the day. We can then plan and schedule our spraying to meet a specific need of us getting into the crops and spraying at a time that makes sense for what we need to do. Then just continuing on from that, just some use case applications for you guys to give you a bit of context. And I know some of the people on the call right now are already in the agricultural space. Others of you are looking and exploring how is this technology relevant? How can it make sense for me? So in this particular case, this list is not exhaustive. And I know Aboubacar will come through and give you a few more examples. So we're looking at pesticide spraying, fertilizer spraying, foliar sprays, orchard spraying, spraying ripener, so particularly for crops like sugarcane, weed control. We've seen even requests coming through for us to spray things like water hyacinth over lakes and that kind of thing. And really, this is probably one of the best tools for us to be able to use to deal with those kind of weeds. Pest control. This weekend, we actually had a project that we were out at one of the local farms, and we were trying to help them deal with a particular pest. And I'll let you know a little bit more about that just now. Then also an interesting use case is malaria control. So one of the things that project that Tanzania Flying Labs did about 2-3 years ago in conjunction with DJI, the world's leading drone manufacturer, is they worked together to actually run a proof of concept around using drones to actually spray in particular places, the swampy areas where you have mosquitoes breeding and that kind of thing. So that's a very interesting use case. And the use case applications are, like I said, they're not exhaustive. So you could even come up with different use cases of how we can leverage the technology to help make the lives of people better, to help boost food security. Now, bringing you to what we're actually doing in the space here in Zimbabwe. The platform that we use is the DJI Agris T30. So this is one of the top end type of crop spraying drones that you can get. Definitely precision spraying. It's got a lot of obstacle avoidance sensors, great technology, great platform, and really one of the best crop spraying drones in the world right now, with a 30-liter tank, massive capacity, LED lights for night spraying, 16 nozzles, which allow us to do a spray width of about 7 meters, and then with orchard mode about 9 meters. So it's a really, really good tool. And for the most part, it's pretty easy to learn for someone who's already a licensed drone pilot. So it's easier for you to transition and then build up on your skills. But if you're coming from zero to this, it might be a bit challenging. This is one of our pilots out in the field, a particular project that we're working on over the weekend. And you'll see that that's actually wheat crop at the back there. And that's us at the end of one of our missions. This is us again over another wheat crop. This is in an area called Cote in Zimbabwe, where we were actually doing a bit of spraying and helping one of the local farmers. This past weekend, we had a project in Bindura. So this is Bindura in Zimbabwe, and you can see there with the trees and right by the lake and the reeds, there was a particular pest that was causing an issue. And in this case, it was what's known as the quelea bird. So the quelea bird is a pest that is really, well, it's become a pest now, an identified pest within the Southern Africa region, where these birds actually go in and eat a lot of, the wheat crop and are actually reducing the amount of yield that farmers are able to get. So we were brought in to really kind of help to deal with that pest alongside, working alongside the national parks to identify the quelea birds. And we were able to actually carry out a project there and spray in that particular area over the weekend. Then just a bit of context for those of you who don't already know, drones are regulated, okay? So drones fall under aviation. So it's not a tool that you can just buy off the shelf and think, okay, great, let me just go get a drone and I can just start using it or teach myself how to do it, right? Drones, particularly in Zimbabwe, and most likely across most African countries and in the world, they're regulated under the transport ministry or transport sector or department, depending which country you're in. And for us in this country, Zimbabwe, our guiding law is the Statutory Instrument 271 of 2018. Those are our regulations, okay? And our regulator is the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe. Now, interestingly enough, when you look at crop spraying drones, right, one of the things we started lobbying for back in 2019 was to have crop spraying drones classified as agricultural equipment. For us, it's the thing that made sense, because it's the agriculture ministry and agriculture sector that really needs to be adopted on this technology. So one of the things we're looking at is how do we get the Ministry of Agriculture to really adopt the technology, not from a perspective of buying and implementing, but from a perspective of having it classified as agricultural equipment. And this is an important thing that we're working on doing. Then looking quickly at some of the challenges with the adoption of crop spraying drones, just to give you a bit of context as well. In the work that we've been doing with crop spraying drones over the last couple of years, here's something that we've seen without a doubt, and I'm sure this applies to the different countries that you guys come from. The first thing is the incorrect mindset around drones. The technology itself is amazing, it's brilliant, it's efficient, right? However, it's important to understand that drones, one, are not toys, two, need to be handled professionally and with people who are trained on how to operate them correctly, okay? It's not something to take lightly. Then there's also compliance standards requirements. There's safety considerations to also bring into play. Then also over and above that, when it comes to crop spraying drones are special and they're different in that you are dispensing material, right, from a flying object. And that in aviation is classified as dangerous goods, okay? Now, when you look at dangerous goods themselves, it requires a specific kind of mindset, a specific training and knowledge and understanding of the risks associated with that. So operating a drone for security surveillance or for mining purposes is very different to operating a drone for crop spraying. And the requirements and your understanding to be able to operate crop spraying drones has to be different, okay? Then also limited knowledge on benefits of using drones in agriculture. So we found that people also don't really see or don't have maybe been exposed to understanding the real benefits, the real value, and understanding the numbers, okay? At the bottom line, at the end of the day, people want to know, am I saving money? Am I saving resources? How is it going to help my crop? Am I going to be able to save the crop? And the reality is, yes, the adoption of drone technology now, crop spraying drones in particular, across Southern Africa has almost doubled or tripled literally in the last 18 months, because now the awareness has become more apparent that this is the tool that we should be using. Then also there's a challenge of limited and poor understanding of local regulations on drone use and compliance requirements. Just now, I'll share with you a little bit about what would be required if you were looking at trying to implement, let's say you have, or you're a farmer and you want to buy your own drone, or you're a company and you want to bring in the service, right? Or hire a consultant. What are the considerations that you must have in place in mind? Then the other challenge with adoption is the high cost of drone hardware and software. If you look at it right now, across the board, when you look at all the commercial drones for mining, for security services, for mapping, for film, all that kind of stuff. When you look at the multi-rotor category of drones, particularly in multi-rotor, right? There is no drone that is more expensive than the crop spraying drone. That is the most expensive drone that you can get, right? And as a platform, that is a limiting factor. Now, when you look at that high cost of drone hardware, a lot of the times you find, especially in African countries, everyone wants to buy, right? You want to buy a drone, bring the drone. But now the conversations we're starting to have is, why can't we build our own, right? And I'm excited that I think there's a couple of people on the platform here, 1 or 2 people who I think are actually in that space and are actually building platforms, and we need more of that. And I guess that falls into our opportunities. Now, also looking at the challenges, there's too much emphasis on hardware, right? There has been too much emphasis on hardware and little training on software and data processing and analysis, right? We need to have more of a culture of understanding that it's not just about the drone, it's also about the software that runs and controls the drone and learning about that. Then also drone pilots, operators lack training and knowledge on agriculture drones, right? The thinking, and this is a huge misconception and an error that people have, the thinking that, you have someone, you might know someone who's a licensed drone pilot and they've gone for training, they've got their license. In Zimbabwe, we call it the remote pilot license. That license doesn't mean you know how to use agriculture drones. It doesn't mean that at all. In fact, you don't know how to use agriculture drones just because you have a remote pilot license. What's necessary is for a licensed drone pilot to then go and get advanced training on agricultural drones, number 1, and 2, specifically crop spraying, right? For you to be able to operate these drones correctly. And there's been a big misconception in that area, particularly from people who want to hire the services or the people who want to actually bring in the technology themselves. Then looking at the last 2 points here is the copycat approach versus contextual innovation approach from key stakeholders. Now, key stakeholders in this case are the governments, our governments and departments, as well as the nonprofit organizations that are supporting the agricultural sector. So one thing to see drones being deployed in Nigeria, in Kenya, right, in Cote d'Ivoire, right, in Senegal, right, or South Africa. It's another thing for you to understand what it would take to do it in the local context. We need to have context when we're looking at innovating. You can't just watch a video or something on online or on TV and then think, oh, we should be implementing this here and we should just do it the way these guys are doing, without understanding the road, the journey, what it would take to actually have an ecosystem that is friendly and that is conducive for us to actually have the technology on the ground. Particularly in Zimbabwe, I'll give you an example. So Zimbabwe has, our Minister of Agriculture and the government have agreed that all equipment that is of an agricultural nature and benefit for agriculture should be tax-free or duty-free, right? That may not necessarily apply to other countries, but that's a good thing that they've done that. But on the other end, crop spraying drones are not classified as agricultural equipment, right? So there's barriers, and that's where we really look at the contextual innovation approach. Then lastly, limited or no access to financing for drone businesses. This is a far cry that you'll hear across different drone companies, whether they're in deliveries or whatever kind of platform, is what we need for the growth of the industry is to have, banks, financiers, different funds being able to come in, see the value, invest in the companies that are certified, that are trained to use drones, and then be able to help to drive the growth of this, the use case of crop spraying drones. Then quickly, as I wrap up my presentation and hand over to Aboubacar, just adding on to that is quickly some compliance and legal requirements. So let's say you're here on the platform and the call, you're really keen, you're interested, you're ready to buy a drone, you're like, right, I want to get into buying a crop spraying drone. What would it take? Here are some of these are just a couple of points that I took from the actual local drone regulations and they're somewhat universal, and they apply to, you know, how drones are regulated in countries that have regulations. Number one, your drone must be registered and have a letter of approval or certificate of registration. So depending on the size, there's different categories of drones, and a lot of them are based on weight class or how far they can fly, etc. So one, your drone must be registered. So you can't just buy it, bring it in, and like not have it registered. That is your legal duty and requirement. Now, you don't need to have a drone pilot license to register your drone, but it must be registered. So it must be known by Civil Aviation that they have it, that you have a drone of this nature, you or your organization. Secondly, to use a drone for commercial purposes, and which commercial purposes is, you know, you operating the drone, whether it's on your farm, etc., etc., you must obtain a pilot license. So that's a training for the pilot who's going to operate. And then what's known as an RPAS operator's certificate. Okay, that's a license for the company or the business that wants to operate drones. All right, so you can't just have your drone pilot license. That's not enough. You need to have what's known as the ROC as well. And we offer training. So we've got a training school, and we offer training and awareness around all these different things to bring understanding of what it would take to do that. Then there's also height and BV loss restrictions. So there's limits to how high you can fly your drone. There's limits to how far you can fly it. And if you want to fly further, you need to have the requisite ratings. So again, having that drone pilot license is not enough. You need to get the ratings associated with you operating the drone that you want to operate. Then also prohibited and restricted areas. Part of the training course is learning about the spaces and areas within your country where you're allowed to fly, where you can't fly, okay? And this is really important because sometimes your farm is right next to maybe a strategic national key point or strategic installation, or it's near an airport or a runway, and you're just like, okay, cool, I can just fly. No, it doesn't work like that. So it's very important to know where you can fly, where you can't fly, to ensure the safety of other air traffic, right? And to ensure that we're compliant. Then you must have an approved flight plan. So again, once you get your drone pilot license, it's still your duty to also inform or request for permission to fly in a particular area. It doesn't mean that now all of a sudden when you have your license, you can just go and fly wherever and whenever. That doesn't apply. So we have a training school. As of earlier this year, we became a certified, under the training division, Precision Drone Training is one of only 2 certified drone training schools in the country right now, and the only school right now in Southern Africa, across the Southern Africa region, that has dual certification, local and international certification, as well as offering advanced industry-specific training courses. So with most schools, you'll find here, for example, our courses. So most schools that you go to only offer that course that you see in the middle there, the remote pilot license, as well as maybe ratings like BV loss or fixed wing, but they don't offer any industry-specific training, which is critical to you being able to actually do the work on the ground. So we've developed and designed these industry-specific courses. This is just a couple of them. We have a number of different courses. So you'll see the one in particular that we are promoting right now is our Drones for Agriculture, our crop spraying course, which we offer to people who are already licensed and who want to now be specialized in being able to offer to operate crop spraying drones. These are some of our drone pilots in training. So we have drone pilots who just gone through and become certified pilots now. They're not just licensed drone pilots. They've become certified drone pilots and are now operating or able to operate crop spraying drones. And further to that, so there they are. So these are our certified drone pilots who've just completed their training courses on crop spraying, and a couple more. There we go. Opportunities. So as we look at opportunities and going into this, I'm going to now hand over to Aboubacar, who's going to speak to a lot of the different opportunities in the space. The only one that I want to definitely mention before Aboubacar comes on is around maintenance. Okay, there's a huge gap in terms of repair and maintenance of these drones, because the drones are, I mean, there's very few of them to speak of, even in Zimbabwe, to start off with, and probably the same in most countries. One, there aren't many people who are knowledgeable about, one, how to operate them, 2, how to repair them. So in that space, that's a huge opportunity. Another massive opportunity, obviously, is in building and manufacturing them. And I know we'll make mention of that, and Aboubacar will speak to you about that. So that's it from me for now. I'll hand over now to Aboubacar, and he will take you through a little bit more detail around the different crops, different spaces, and how his team have been doing amazing work within this area. And I'm looking forward to just hearing your questions as well at the end, and also just hearing from Aboubacar and the things that they're doing in Cote d'Ivoire.
Okay. So thank you, Tawanda, for the presentation, and thank you for the introduction and for the opportunity we robotic give us to talk about our work in this webinar. So I will share my screen. Okay. Just want to confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So okay, can you see it in full
Yes.
screen? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So so when we speak about how to organize this webinar, we mentioned that we just have 1 hour, and so we have many presentation in different type of crop, but it will be difficult to share all the presentation. So with Tawanda and Mufon and also Mamadou, we choose to focus on cotton because we know that cotton is in every countries we are in Africa, and also it will be a good introduction to see what is the advantage of drone in the particular crop. Spraying drone in a particular type of crop. And also, if you want more information, you can contact me directly or contact We Robotic, and we will share more information. So this presentation will be just focused on cotton, but there is some similarities with other crops. So to introduce ourselves, so the managing director of Investive, it's a West African company specialized in precision agriculture advising and also spraying services by drone. So we really focus on spraying drone since 2019. We use many brands or many type of tank capacity of drone. Now we have an operational fleet of 12 drones, 12 spraying drone. We have 4 DJI T16 and 8 DJI T30, and we have also an amazing drone pilot team who are operating in Cote d'Ivoire, but also sometimes in Mali and borders country of Cote d'Ivoire. So so the problem of many conventional method of agriculture spraying. So for example, we have backpack sprayer and tractor, particularly in cotton, who compete with our drone technology. The problem with backpack sprayer is they have a low volume. So for example, the operator of backpack sprayer have to use many times water to spray 1 hectare. The quantity of chemical is close to 400 liter of water, and you will see that drone can save a lot of water, close to 90% of water, because we have we spray at low volume tank capacity. Also, the labor cost is very high. You will compare, like you will say, oh, drone services can be high cost, but if you want to spray with backpack sprayer, you want to spray, for example, 4 hectare, in the same time than drone, or maybe more, or maybe in 2 days or 1 day, day, you will have to use many people, and those people you will pay them, and sometimes it's more higher than risk, because the sprayer
Hi, Aboubacar. It seems we've lost him.
I'm sure he's doing some spraying on the computer.
Hi, Tim.
Aboubacar?
Just in case we've lost them, perhaps
Yeah.
Tawanda, perhaps you can share an experience with a particular crop, maybe sugarcane or the one you just recently did in Kwekwe.
Okay, yeah, sure. That's
Hello,
fine.
can you hear me?
Oh, okay, he's back.
Okay, yes.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, can you see my screen again, or?
No.
No, you need to share your screen again.
Okay. Okay, it's okay now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So so this is many advantage of the use of drone compared to conventional methods. You have the flexibility compared to the tractor, because if you want to do services with tractor, it will be to one area. You can't take a tractor and go with it far away to spray. It will be very high cost, because you will have to buy gas and things like that to go to another. For example, if you have to go at 50 kilometer, it will be long, and it will take you a lot of gas. With drone, you can just put it behind your car, and you will be able to go where you want to do your spraying. It's also easy to use after good training. The health risk is lower. The applicator is not in direct contact with the product. You have the reduction of water, and also phytosanitary products. We have a rational use of product, and the respect of recommended doses per hectare. This is very important, because when you spray with backpack sprayer, for example, it's very difficult to respect the doses per hectare, because since the producer is walking, the operator is walking with with his backpack sprayer, sometimes he can put more chemical at a place to another. So he just manage it, not he don't manage it like a drone will manage the specificity of the doses. Also, you have a low drift. The drone is just under 2 to 5 meters above the plants, so the drift is low. You have the reduction of pest pressure. You have a daily treatment capacity, 40 hectare in cotton, based on our experience, versus 5 hectare maximum per day with tractor, for example. You have a reduction of the risk of snake and scorpion bites when the cotton plants reach maturity. This is very specific to cotton. You have the effective control of the main cotton pests, who are Helicoverpa and Jacids. So those are the main cotton pests we fight against with drones, and we have a feedback from the producers. And also the onboard GPS is very interesting because we have the opportunity to know where where we sprayed before, what is the name of the producer, for example, the area, and we can also see the volume of the tank, the volume of product we use. So this is very interesting for reporting. And also if you have a drone fleet with many operators, to follow the operation of your operator, and to have to be it's not like with, for example, tractor, you can just be based on what they said, but with drone you have the proof with the GPS, and you can follow the operations better. So so this is drone performance based on our experience again, because this is very important. You will the drone seller or the drone factory will show you a specific performance, but it's not always the truth. So in Cote, we do 7 to 10 hectares per hour per drone, 35 to 40 hectares per day per drone, and 10 to 30 liters of spray liquid per hectare. So the volume of spray liquid can influence the daily and hourly performance, because if you use 10 liter, it will be, the drone will be quicker than it if you use 30 liter. So those are other use of drone in cotton. We can do aerial mapping of cultivated area, identification of erosion in less fertile areas through different type of indices, and evaluation of the health of the plants. So this is our experience. So since between 2020 and 2022, we spray more than 40,000 hectares of plantation in different types of crop, banana, sugarcane, cotton. We did several interventions in research with organizations like CIRAD, APNI. So APNI is African Plant Nutrition Institute based in Morocco. CNRA is the National Research Center in Cote d'Ivoire, and CIRAD is the French Research Center in Agriculture. We use several types of projects. We work also with customers like big customer, agri-industrial customer, and also cooperative and farm association. And we have a certified pilot team experience, and also the team, Tawanda talked about that before, but it's very important to have also a team that know the agricultural terrain of productions, because this work is not only digital, is also, the drone is a farm machinery. Like it's not just a drone, it's also a tool designed just for agriculture. And it's very important to have experience on the farm. And also we have experience in training for this kind of drone, and also maintenance in addition to crop protection. So this is the end of my presentation. So I can maybe, if you want more information for different type of crop, I can, for your question, for example, I can share you more of our experience, but due to time limit, we just did this presentation for cotton. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aboubacar. I think we still have about 40 minutes to take questions from the audience, and who knows, maybe you might have to share some tips about banana spraying as well. So everyone, feel free to unmute if you have any question, or use the chat function to share your questions or comments.
I had one question for the presenters.
Go ahead.
Yes, so either Tawanda or Aboubacar, Kareem, I was just wondering, when we're talking about farmers in our context, like for example, in Tanzania, the majority of the farmers is what we would call is the so-called smallholder. And when I say the majority, it's really more than 70% of our farmers are smallholders. Are these the target customers, or is it really this kind of technology is relegated to commercial, the so-called commercial farmer?
Okay. So us, we identify our customer in 3 categories. So we have one category is government institution, public institution. Second category is agro, we call them agro-industrial. So it's big companies like big sugarcane company, big bananas company who do exportation or who have a factory to transform their own sugar they produce. And we have the third category, which is farmer and cooperative association. So we don't directly work with smallholder farmer. All those customers, the 3 categories I mentioned before, they work in the interest of smallholder farmers. For example, government, if they are our customer, they will say, okay, we have a government agent for cotton production, for example, and we want you to train a drone operator in order to deliver spraying services to farmers. The agro-industrial also, sometimes they have big lands, but they also buy for farmers. So they can tell us they want us to spray smallholder farmer crops in order to help them to meet production target and buy for them. But the smallholder farmer don't pay us. They are the beneficiaries of the service. And the same for can 200 members, and they want to spray, so the cooperative pay us. It's usually like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Femi Adekoya. Your hand is raised. Go ahead and speak, please. Oh, sorry, Tawanda would like to answer as well.
Okay, thank you for that, Mufon, and thank you, Leka, for the question. So yeah, so just I think from what Aboubacar said, for us in particular, one of the things that we've also had to look at when we're looking at who's our customer is particularly looking at the stage in the development of the industry that we're at. Because drones in themselves, yes, they're becoming a lot more well-known. They're still kind of a new industry, but in particular, crop spraying drones are not even, they're still very, very new. They're hardly, even 5, companies or even individuals that I can say have crop spraying drones that are able to offer kind of services and that kind of thing. So right now it's a phased approach where we're trying to make sure that we bring awareness to your government agencies, to your nonprofit organizations that support the smallholder farmers, because we want them to see the value so that they can make the environment more conducive to allow more of the technology to happen. So we don't necessarily target smallholder farmers at all. We have done proof of concepts and worked with smallholder farmers to gather information, to do research, to help here and there in emergencies, when they need help. But just like Aboubacar said, our target market ultimately are the people who would then pay the bills, okay, and would pay for the service. And the people who have the, I guess the capacity to do it at scale are your bigger organizations and your government. But I think going forward in the next couple of years and that kind of thing, once the technology is adopted and once agricultural drones are classified as agricultural equipment and you have people building drones and locally and manufacturing them, and the prices come down, it'll be a lot easier for smallholder farmers to either get their hands on them themselves, or you have a lot more drone service companies in this space who are offering services to meet the needs of the smallholder farmers.
Thank you, Tawanda.
Go ahead, Femi.
All right, thank you very much. I think I just want to start with what we are actually doing in Nigeria with smallholder farmers. Yeah, it doesn't mostly make business sense serving smallholder farmers that are actually less than 2 hectares of land. And as a matter of fact, I mean, times that we just tell cost clients that we have minimum hectare that we can actually serve per day. So, and smallholder farmers are actually exempted from such most of the time. So what we do is to serve them in clusters, and that we do in a similar method to which Aboubacar mentioned, probably through government and most especially through organization or through their cooperatives that, for example, rice farmers, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, many of these people farm in clusters, especially in the northern part of the country. So we can be able to serve them at scale, and that makes economic sense for us operating or serving them. So yeah, and also I also want to mention before asking my question, I think I am actually an agricultural professional. And reiterating what Tawanda and Aboubacar mentioned, that we actually need those who understand the terrain to actually do agricultural spraying, particularly because they are actually agricultural instrument. And that's because beyond the idea of flying, it is not just the drone that is doing the job. The drone is just an enabler to ensure what you are applying, the applicant, either you are actually applying surfactant, fertilizer, pesticide, or which kind of pesticide, how does it react to the plant, how does it function? It comes from your understanding of basic agricultural or agronomic understanding for you to be able to deliver the right solution to the farmer. So it is very, very important. And I think countries like the US, beyond just your ROC, beyond just your RPL, you need to actually have an exemption or perhaps a training. For example, in the US, you should be able to have your Part 137 or 132, that actually allows you to actually operate agricultural drone. And because of the risks that agricultural drone poses, they are big, they are massive, they can, they pretend causing greater harm, and also I think another country which I think is actually doing something around this is South Africa. You also have to have a pest control certification, and I think these things are just quite necessary. But I feel that we are going to get there, more particularly in places like Africa, and in a way that we will not be able to stifle innovation also, or getting people to get into the industry. So now my question is, we know our landscape, particularly in West Africa. I've not actually been to many other parts of Africa, but in West Africa, we have farmers who have ample hectare of land, both smallholders and the likes, but with sparse tree, particularly in the rainforest. Sparse trees around the field, how easy it is for drone operators like you, Investive, that's Aboubacar, and possibly Tawanda, how easy it is for you to be able to serve farmlands in this kind of terrain. We can see obstacle avoidance, but how effective is that, particularly? Because I like to hear from you. Thank you very much.
I can start, and yes. So so you talk about rain terrain, like trees like rubber trees on cocoa plantation, things like that, palm trees. This is is what you mean?
Okay, yeah, I think that question goes with in two forms. Okay, plantations. How do you operate on plantations? But outside plantations, plantations of tree crops like cocoa. I know Cote d'Ivoire does a lot of cocoa. So aside plantations of trees, or plantations of arable crops in rainforest particularly, or savanna region that has past trees as obstacles, just sprinkle around the farms. How do you actually efficiently operate in that kind of terrain? I like a more practical answer. Thank you very much.
Okay, so yes, so I will give you maybe a few examples. The problem with the obstacle on the farms can be sometimes solved by good flight plan. Us, we do not hesitate. For example, if we have to spray 15 hectare, for example, we don't not hesitate to cut these 15 hectare in different flight plan of 3 hectare, just to avoid obstacle. This is first time. Sometimes what we do of the lanes with the obstacles, and we identify all the obstacle, and we identify also takeoff area. And when we have all our takeoff area, we can just go on the farm and do different flight plan, go on our takeoff area and do the job. But the things which is important is when you do it once time, it's finished. After, you don't have to do it again. So it's very important to work on your risk before to start spray in a context with a lot of obstacle. You don't have to just be based on obstacle avoidance sensor of the drone. And this is also important to mention to the customer. Sometimes our banana customer, they want to spray the borders of the plantation specifically, because sometimes they can use plane to spray all the plantation, but the borders they wanted to spray with drone. But the problem is the borders, we have the roads, and we have also sometimes trees coming up the banana crop. So we ask them to don't cut the trees, but cut the branch of the trees who can be on the crop, on the banana crop. So we did that also. So we take the time to very identify all the obstacles, because we don't want to lose our drone. And for example, in cocoa, we don't do deliver service in cocoa, because cocoa, all the cocoa plantation are under forest trees. So we don't deliver service in cocoa. We do in rubber trees, because rubber trees are yes, the height of the rubber trees, it's approximately 20 meter, but it's the same crop for big land, so we can use it and we don't have obstacle. The only problem is the crops are very tall, so we just take a scale to allow the drone pilot to keep the drone in visual, and we choose also good takeoff area in order to be to deliver the service. And for palm tree also is the same. For cashew nut also is the same. So yeah, so just for me, you have to take the precaution, and you have to we you have to also have we use a risk table. Then when we go on the plantation, we identify all the obstacles, and we after that, after the visit of the plantation, we tell to the customer if we can do the job or no. But we do not hesitate to say no if we understand that it will be risky for our materials.
All right, that's very clear. Thank you very much. In a case where you have to spray trees, does the farmer give you those rates in terms of application, particularly, you know, for example, if you are spraying glyphosate on the rice field, or perhaps, and you are using a 10 liters per hectare dose application rate. I want to get your experience with tree crops, if you can share. Thank you.
I didn't understand the end of your question. You talk about tea crop.
Yes, your experience with spraying tree crops.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the application dose rate. Yeah, the application dose rate. Yes.
Well, sometimes we base on the project. For example, if the technical specificities of the project rate is 1 or let's say 100 millimeter per milliliter. Yes, I think, yeah, per hectare. We just the most important is the project, not the water. So we just know what is the quantity of project that can be delivered on 1 hectare, what is the quantity of chemical, and we just do dilution with water, of dilution with another type of, or sometimes we dilute on oil. It depends of the type of crops. But the important things is the quantity of active materials, so the chemical you put on a surface. So the dilution, for example, if you have to use 2 liters of chemical in 10 liters, I don't allow you to do that, because it will be it's very risky for the plants. So you just have to know how to do dilution with the products. So for example, if you use 2 liters of chemical for example, of herbicides, you will need to use 30 liters of water for the project to be well, to do a good dilution.
Thank you. So we also have some questions in the chat. One just came in now from Tiam. He has a question about risk in using some chemicals.
Yeah, just quick one. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you very much.
Yes, we can.
Both for your presentation. It was very interesting. I have two quick questions. The first one is, what are your implications with regard to risk on the type of product you use your drone to spray? I guess you know where my question is leading to. Today, there's a lot of discussions about the type of chemicals that are being used in farms in Africa and elsewhere, the consequences with regard to health. I know today you are trying to help farmers, but at the same time, you are involved in spraying these products. What are the legal implications for your companies, your teams, because you manipulate these chemicals, and what are the final, let's say, long-term implications on your organizations at the end of the day and our network at the end of the day? That's my first question. The second question, quickly, we hear mostly about precision agriculture. I know spraying is part of precision agriculture. I'm not an agric expert. I'm happy to see that some agric experts are around the table. At this point in time, do you only use your machinery, I mean the drones, to only do spraying just because you want to bring in mechanization, you want to bring in machines to replace human beings, or you are contributing into precision agriculture? Because I know precision agriculture is more than only spraying. It's also about using data, using, agronomies, theories to be able to apply this. I just want to know, how far are you involved in it? Thank you.
Mfon, can I have a rejoiner to Tiam's question?
Okay.
Yeah, which is related. So most of our farms, I'm one of the farmers here in Kenya. And the new trend is organic farming. And another thing, if you need to export your crops or your produce, there is something they're calling traceability. Traceability means you can be able to give a history of how you have been farming since you planted your crops to the time you're harvesting. And my question is kind of related to Tiam, because when you talk of organic farming, the sprays are less. You're not using a lot of sprays. Is there a way that the drones can be included, or how can we use drones basically in organic farming and make sure we are not mixing the sprays? Yeah.
Okay, great. I think I'll start to try and answer the questions, and then Aboubacar, you can jump in at any point. I think the first question from Tiamo, just in terms of the risks associated with operating crop spraying drones. I think this is where the importance of context is important for us, particularly as those who are delivering a service to farmers. There is, the responsibility that Tiamo mentioned. Some of the chemicals that are being used are, potentially harmful, and not only, in terms of the crops themselves, whether it's contributing to what we call as genetically modified foods, or even harmful towards the operators, the pilots, and people who would be spraying in that area and that kind of thing, or to other, wildlife and not plant life, really. For us in particular, I think it's important to know that the tool that we're talking about here, the drone is in itself a vehicle that we're using, right, to deliver, whether it's pesticide, herbicide, fungicide of whatever sort, right? Our job really at the end of the day is to help do that quicker, faster, more efficiently, and help our customers save time, save money, etc. Our responsibility role right now as it stands is on us being compliant with what the regulations are in whichever country we're in, right? Once we meet those standards, then we are able to work within that framework. Whenever we have chemicals that are being used, I know, and I'll make mention particularly this past weekend, where we were spraying, we were called in by it was Ministry of Agriculture alongside the the National Parks, and they wanted us to spray queen leopard. Now there's a particular, chemical called Fentian that is prescribed as what they use to actually kill the queen leopard. But because the queen leopards have been classified as being pests, right, we're allowed to spray them. When we got to the farm, we actually, with National Parks, we realized that it was actually a weevil bird that was really causing the issue more than it was the queen leopard. Now, immediately from that point, from the farmer's perspective, the farmer's like, this is a pest, it's eating my crop. Just spray it. Just kill it, get rid of it, right? From an ethical standpoint, right, we can't and we shouldn't do that because it's against the law and against the standards that have been set by the country, right? So in the end, we ended up not spraying that chemical on those birds because that wasn't what we were targeted for, even though we could have done it. Okay, that's our ethical responsibility, right? Now, in terms of the way the Fentian itself Now you can look up a report that was done by the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and they actually had a conference, I think about maybe beginning of last year, where they were looking and saying fenthian is a chemical that is not good for birds and all that kind of thing. We need to find another, is there not an alternative? I think the whole talk was about alternatives to fenthian because they don't want to use fenthian anymore. Okay. Now it's not for us as the drone pilots and the owners to then, argue about whether fenthian is the one or not, or that kind of thing. That's not really our place, to be honest. That's really a space for, yes, agronomists to lobby. But as long as the government, and it's within the legal framework, then for us, we are a hired tool. The same way you would dispense it if you were going to do it with a knapsack, the same way you do it if you were going to do it with an airplane. As long as you meet the legal obligations and requirements, and obviously use good ethical practices, I think for us, it's for us to really stay in our lane. And we can't really advocate for or fight for saying, let's not use this chemical or that chemical. As long as it's legal, then, we are going to do as requested. I hope that makes sense and covers that part. Maybe before I move on to the next one, I don't know, Aboubacar, do you want to add something?
Hi, Aboubacar, are you there? Okay, pending when Aboubacar is able to speak. We also have other questions here in the chat, if you don't mind taking them, Tawanda. Someone is asking Ola Bamide, please, how long does the drone battery last in relation to hectares covered? So if I understood correctly, how long can a drone last in relation to the space it's covering?
Okay, that's fine, I can answer that. But before I get to that, answer that question, Tiamu, you had a second question. Sorry, I've just forgotten it. I was hoping Aboubacar would answer the first question, then I can address the second one. So can you just do a quick reminder for me on this second question, Tiamu?
Yeah, thank you very much for the first answer. In fact, I was relating to the precision agriculture we all know about. It's for us, everybody is aware of precision agriculture. I was wondering whether, as part of some of the services you provide, are you really lean on the precision part of the agriculture or only the spraying part? Because when it comes to precision agriculture, Femi might correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not an agronomist. From the research we have done here, is not only limited to spraying. Of course, spraying is important. It's saving time for farmers, as you rightly put in your presentation. It's helping them to save in the investment and time and all that. But then, do you, for instance, get involved much more deeper into collecting data, multispectral data, analyzing the data, trying to apply that data to the spraying drone, if spraying is needed and all that? That's what I wanted to check.
Thank you for that reminder. And that's an important question. And then I'll get to the question that Mfon just asked just now. So regarding what we're doing in the space of agriculture, I think mid last year, we made a decision to have a specific focus on our agricultural services. And we then, and up to now, we're still working on, getting the right equipment to be able to deliver full service when it comes to precision agriculture. As it stands right now, we have not only the crop spraying drones, but we also have the small scale mapping drones. So your Phantom line, your Mavic line type of thing. And then we also have the large scale mapping platforms like the EBX, which we are specifically operating mainly in the agriculture space, where we are actually doing like what you've just shared, Tiamu, where we're actually working with, again, farmers, some of our clients. Even earlier today, we're actually planning with one of the agricultural research institutes where they do seed crop. They grow different types of seed crops and tests and experiments and that kind of thing. And they have a number of different research stations across the country. And we're actually working on going out with them to actually do what you're talking about in terms of doing stand counts, monitoring crops across the growth cycle of different types of crops, to help them do things like phenotyping, to do stand counts, to assess, obviously, the different conditions or stress related to the variant of the type of seed that they've actually trying to experiment with. We recently acquired a multispectral sensor, which is now helping us to get that plant level data and information that is, of value at the end of the day. Also, what we're looking forward to and what excites us is that platforms like the Agris T30, the way they're designed, and when you combine the Agris T30 with the Phantom 4 RTK, then literally what we're able to do is we're able to go into a farm, a 10-hectare plot. Let's say there's a pest that we are trying to identify. We use the Phantom 4 RTK to map out the crop first, identify the areas that actually have been affected by the crop, and only spray those areas, because then we can upload that data, take it and put it into the flight planning software and flight control software for the DJI Agris crop sprayer, and it will only spray particularly the area we've identified as having an issue. So that's how we're bringing in that technology. Over and above that, what I'm also excited about, what we're looking at doing is we've also started doing research into terrestrial robots for farms, because we found that even when we are doing your orchard kind of spraying, right, be it oranges, let's say, or macadamia or something like that, right, or even tea, right, the drone can only cover the top really, and that spray, that wash, the downwash as it goes down, doesn't really cover the bottom part, and we want to be able to get that data and information as well. So terrestrial robots can help us, number one, on the spraying side from that low level. Number two, the data and information. Particularly, we've done projects with maize, where we've done mapping across the growth of the maize plant. And we're at planting stage and emergent stage. It's easy to do the stand counts, right, to count the number of crops. But the moment you have that coverage now, where the crops are closer together, that maize is closer together, it's hard for us to get data and information. And even if we map, it's hard to see from that top level. So now getting the terrestrial robots at the bottom will actually help us to do that. So that's something that we're looking at and exploring, is how can we then combine that kind of technology to really bring data and insights to farmers and help them make data-driven decisions. So that's that question, Tiamu. And then I'll add to the other question just in terms of battery life. So how long does the battery last in relation to hectare coverage? It really depends on the type of drone that you're using. So the types of drones we use are called DJI Agris series. And within that series, there's the T10, T16, T20, T30, and they have different capacities. So on the higher end, I'll talk about the T30. The T30 in itself, the batteries are horrible. They do not last long. I'm really not happy with battery technology with drones right now, but the battery lasts essentially about 12 minutes. And I think on the box, they say it's 15 or something like that, but it's about 12 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. But in that time, we're able to cover about 3 hectares, I would say, if we're talking max efficiency, about 3.5, according to what's on the box, or 4. But yeah, in practice, yeah, we cover about 2.5 to 3 hectares. We're able to do that in that time. So essentially, that gives us then that 10 to 12 hectare range, or 10 to 11 hectare range per hour at maximum efficiency with the different battery changes.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? Hello, go ahead. Okay, it seems Olabamide doesn't have a question. Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. We will have the recording available on our YouTube soon. Keep in touch, send us an email, and if you would like, you can stay updated with Flying Labs information by visiting www.flyinglabs.org. You'll find the link in the chat. Thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mufon. Thank you all.